I'd like to read to you from Fire in the Minds of Men in the introduction something very interesting and very important as we get into the symbols of the Illuminati and symbols of the Freemasonic orders of the world. On page 6 in the introduction it says, European aristocracy transferred its lighted candles from Christian altars to Masonic lodges. The flame of occult alchemists, which had promised to turn dross into gold, reappeared at the center of new circles, seeking to recreate a golden age. Bavarian Illuminati conspiring against Jesuits, French Philadelphians against Napoleons, Italian charcoal burners against Habsburgs. Always two sides. A recurrent model for revolutionaries and early mystics and young Karl Marx and the Russians of Lenin's time was Prometheus, the god who stole fire from the gods for the use of mankind. The Promethean faith of revolutionaries resembles in many respects the general modern belief that science would lead men out of darkness into light. And here's the point. But there was also a more pointed millennial assumption that on the new day that was dawning, the sun would never set. Early during the French Revolution was born, quote, the solar myth of revolution, end quote, suggesting that the sun was rising on a new era in which darkness would vanish forever. This image became implanted at a level of consciousness which simultaneously interpreted something real and produced a new reality. The new reality that they sought was radically secular and stringently simple. The idea was not the balanced complexity of a new American federation, but the occult simplicity of its great seal, an all-seeing eye atop the pyramid over the words Novus Ordo Seclorum. The seal that we have on an American dollar bill is an occult seal of an occult society pursuing an occult agenda. We are not aware of that. And that's what we at International Research hope to do for you, is to make you aware of certain things which are going on in our government, in our world today, that you have not up till now been made aware of. It is not our purpose to spend too much time on this particular order of Freemasonry, the Illuminati, but we want to spend enough time so that you understand how it worked, what its purposes were, and how it affects us today. Because it's still with us today. It has taken on different forms in different countries, but it is still basically with the world today. Now, perhaps some of you are aware of this material that we're discussing right now, and maybe you're not. But to show that this is not just our understanding of things, we have gone back to records in the past as far back as the founding of the United States, and comments made by George Washington, which we're going to read in a few moments. Here is an article from the grand jury of the state of Pennsylvania, published in 1800s, dealing with Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the problems that they were confronting in the state of Pennsylvania. As we said, George Washington mentioned the Illuminati, and I mentioned the Illuminati a few moments ago in relation to the democratic societies that were being founded in the United States. The Democratic Party today is an outgrowth of what we call the democratic societies of Europe. The democratic societies, while on the surface sounds good, but when one looks further into what democracy means and how it actually works, democracy does not seem to work too well. And there's a reason. Let me read to you from a California State Senate first. 11th report, State Investigating Committee on Education, published in 1953 by the California State Senate, and it talks about the Illuminati. You can get a copy of this from the International Research if you wish. In dealing with the subject of communism, secret societies of communism, in 1953, on page 168, I'm going to do a little reading, but it's very important. I think it's important that you should hear this. On 168, the California State Senate goes on to say, since many intelligent persons, even in high official positions, do not appear to have acquainted themselves with the real nature and seriousness of communism, it is perhaps appropriate to give briefly some really informative, authentic data concerning it. Communism and Russia are by no means synonymous. Russia merely occupies the unfortunate position of being communism's first victim. Communism is synonymous with world revolution and seeks the destruction of all nations, abolition of patriotism, religion, marriage, family, private property, and all political civil liberties, and the establishment of a worldwide dictatorship of the so-called proletariat, which is in fact an autocratic, self-constituted dictatorship by a small group of self-perpetuating revolutionaries. Over on page 169, the document goes on to say, so-called modern communism is apparently the same hypocritical and deadly world conspiracy to destroy civilization that was founded by the secret order of the Illuminati in Bavaria in May 1st, 1776, and that raised its hoary head here in our colonies at critical periods before the adoption of our federal Constitution. The world revolution conspiracy appears to have been so well organized and ever continuing to be ever on the alert to take advantage of every opportunity presenting itself or that the conspirators could create. It is significant in this connection that as early as 1783, when unsettled conditions and dissatisfaction in some quarters had arisen in the American colonies, subversive anonymous sermons were circulated among the colonial army to incite dissatisfaction and rebellion. George Washington immediately called the army together and in addressing them used this significant language. This is taken from page 86, volume 4 of Marshall's Life on Washington, remembering that this is 1783, George Washington addressing the army. Says this, my God, what can this writer have in view by recommending such measures? Can he be a friend to the army? Can he be a friend to this country? Rather, is he not an insidious foe, some emissary perhaps from New York? Then the next paragraph, the California State Senate continues, it is plain that George Washington believed that the then center of this secret conspiracy, so far as this country was concerned, to be located in the city of New York. We know that there has been some sort of a manipulation of our government, our money, our institutions, and our lives by our government. But what we don't realize is that there is an agenda. There is a method to the madness. We want to look into this secret movements of the world and how they affect us in our private lives. And we may not think they affect us on a private level, but they do. They affect your children in school. They affect what your children learn. They affect what you learn from nightly television. There have been many movies discussing this publicly. Even George Washington, in his personal letters, mentioned the Illuminati and Freemasonry. George Washington himself was a Freemason. In response to a letter sent to George Washington in 1798, warning him about a Masonic movement operating in America, and this particular Masonic movement are referred to as the Illuminati, George Washington responded in a letter to the person saying,